Well, welcome in again to the Money Wisdom Podcast, powered by Johnson Brunetti. As always, my name is Jake Dozer, certified financial planner and advisor here in our Connecticut area offices. Joined, of course, by my colleague in arms up there, Nick Colantuono. Nick is a certified financial planner as well in our Boston offices. You're joining us today, as I'm sure you're aware, in part 3 of a 4-part series talking about the Johnson Brunetti process. That is, when folks come in to see us, they come in initially for a complimentary consultation, and they'd like us to give an analysis and second opinion and findings on how they're doing. Are they doing okay? Have they saved enough money to retire when they want? Is there a danger of running out? Are they taking too much risk? Not enough? Is there tax inefficiencies, etc.? Ultimately, all flies under the banner of, I need a plan, because I've saved money, but I don't really know how to unwind this ball of wax. And that's our goal, is to help folks through that process. So just as a brief recap, when folks come in for their first visit, they come in for what we call our discovery meeting. Our goals is to understand their fears and their concerns and what they want their retirement to look like, what type of planning they've done outside of just investments, because we're not just investment managers, we're financial planners. And understand where are we going and what targets do we want to look to accomplish. Our second meeting, when somebody comes back in, is when we're revealing and reviewing our homework. After looking through their circumstance, are they on the right track? Have they saved the right amount? Are they taking too much or not enough risk or the right amount? What changes, if any, need to be implemented in order to make their plan work for the long term? After that second meeting, folks have enough information to determine if we're the right fit for them to help implement these changes and guide them through this formative back third of our life, really, in retirement. And at this third meeting, we call this our retirement builder meeting. That's our goal, is to implement the changes that we've discussed. So with that groundwork laid, Nick, why don't you head us off? Start us off by talking us through in this meeting where we're implementing change and improvements, where we're building your retirement plan. Where do we start? What's that look like to begin with?
Yeah, Jake, it's a great, I should say it's a beautiful thing, because if we're having a third meeting with someone, it means that they've determined we're the right fit and that they want this relationship to go above and beyond, the dinner or the podcast or the books or those first initial consultations. So again, nothing makes me happier as an advisor than making somebody a client. And it's not for my benefit. It's because I know the value of the advice and the guidance that we're providing for people. And so again, this third meeting, this plan building meeting, as you call it, it's just that. We've talked to this point, 2-3 separate conversations, various emails, communications back and forth of addressing what your concerns are, what your needs are, what your goals are. We've agreed upon a strategy that makes sense to help us accomplish those, not overnight, right? Nothing happens overnight. So you talk about going one step at a time. This is that first step where now we're getting a little more granular. Now we're getting into the specific recommendations of, you need $5,000 a month out of your investments. Well, how do we structure your investments, or at least a part of your investments, to be generating that monthly income? Or, looking at the report, we need to achieve X level of growth on these accounts to make sure that you're keeping pace with inflation and not losing purchasing power and still able to do the things you want to do. Remember, you told me you wanted to buy a boat, when you retire, or you wanted to buy that house up on the lake. So again, growth is equally as important as safety, right? Those two things don't live without each other. Mm-hmm. But what is paramount in all of it is income. Because again, folks are really relying on us to be making up the difference for them in what's coming in from those guaranteed retirement income sources versus now what's going out just as a result of expenses. And again, the world we live in is just getting more and more expensive every single day. So you need a plan that is fluid, and that's what we aim to do with folks. Not just sitting down and saying you're going to be okay, let's just keep on keeping on. It's like, no, you're going to be okay, and this is why, right? These are the things that we need to do and the plans that we need to put in place today for the world we're seeing around us. Not saying that things are going to be that way forever, but these are the plans that we need to put in place today to make sure that you don't have to worry about this stuff going forward.
Are you ready to retire with confidence? Join us for our retirement planning workshop and learn strategies to maximize Social Security, healthcare, income planning, taxation, and more. Text workshop to 800-757-0436 to reserve your spot, or click the link in this week's show for more details on how to register.
You hit the nail on the head. The reality is that there's different priorities in retirement. We alluded to this in our last episode, where your relationship with money in the retirement mode has changed. And so the recommendations that we make are not because we have some sort of magic menu of products that are different or better or worse than what you used to use. In fact, we're an independent advisory firm, so we can use anything out there to make your plan work. It's all about, are each tool aligned with the amount of money in order to accomplish what you need to accomplish? And how do we find the most effective tools to do so? And so oftentimes folks have a few different buckets of money. Maybe they have a safe bucket. This is the bucket that can't participate in market loss. Maybe they have an income bucket. This is the bucket that's going to be focused on generating steady, consistent income. And then maybe they have a growth bucket, knowing that retirement is not a short-term thing. It's a 20, 30-year process. What's the money that's fighting inflation long-term and looking for growth down the road? And so how do we align each of these buckets? And certainly there are more buckets than that, but those are just some common ones. How do we align these buckets with how you're going to relate with your money now that we're in a new phase of life? How are we going to make sure that you've got income that is able to be generated without hurting you, so to speak? How do we make sure that while we're doing it along the way, you're paying the least amount to Uncle Sam? How are we going from where you were at historically to where you need to be now? Now that you're a client, what are we doing to make that happen? And that's what this meeting is all about. So we're getting into granularity. And just to keep in mind, not only are we independent advisors, we do this as a team, and we are fiduciaries. We give advice, which is, if I were you, this is what I would do. And so this is where the rubber meets the road, where we're implementing these changes to make sure that you have a plan that can stand the test of time and is going to be able to support you for the next 20 or 30 years of your life. Because ultimately, it's better to have money at the end of your life than life at the end of your money. And we want to make sure that you and the next generation, or your charity, or whoever you'd like the extra to go to, are being supported. And so this meeting will guide you through those changes and what that will look like. Again, not that we couldn't talk about this before, but rather sometimes we get so lost in the minutia that we forget the big picture. And so our goal is to guide people through these decisions so that they can understand it, they can have clarity, they can have trust. And ultimately, they don't feel like they have to react when the market's going crazy, because they can trust it. I have a plan, and this is that meeting where we'll talk about it and how we can implement it. Thank you for tuning in to the Money Wisdom Podcast. I'm excited to share with you our fourth and final episode coming up here shortly in this series, where we're taking folks through the phases that we take our clients through as people come into our office for the first time to becoming clients. In this next meeting, we're going to be talking about our fourth and final meeting, our review meeting. What does that look like? We're reviewing what we've implemented. We're setting up logistical things like logging in and access to your accounts. And we're guiding you on what our relationship will look like going forward and the tools we'll arm you with. So stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe if you want to make sure you don't miss that episode. Like the page so you'll see more content like this. We'll see you next time on the Money Wisdom Podcast.
Investment advisory services offered through JB Capital LLC. Insurance products offered through JN Financial LLC.